It's not very often that I sit down to watch a show or even a movie and my heart rate gets accelerated and my breathing is altered, but let me tell you, that definitely happened while watching Obi-Wan Kenobi this week. I'm honestly still having a bit of a hard time processing what I just watched. Now, honestly, I would like to just jump straight into Vader here, but there's some important things that happen earlier on in the episode, particularly between Obi-Wan and Leia, that I think we should cover first. So just a couple of quick points. Leia and Obi-Wan have a conversation, and Leia indicates that she is aware that Obi-Wan knows more than what he's telling her about her past and about her parents. Leia knows that she was adopted. We learned this in episode 1. She knows that the Organas are not her true parents, and she even asks if Obi-Wan is her father, to which Obi-Wan replies, "I wish I could say I was." And he also admits to her that he did know her mother, and then he sort of tries to relate to Leia in a way because Obi-Wan was taken away from his family like Leia was. He was a little bit older than Leia was, obviously, because Leia was a newborn child when she was separated from her mother and she never met her father at all. But Obi-Wan reminisces a little bit and he talks about some little memories that he has of his mother and father, and even reveals that he believes he had a brother, although he cannot remember for sure. So that was definitely an interesting conversation there. It's also pretty early on in the episode when we have this exchange of shots between Obi-Wan and this hooded figure off in the distance standing in the desert. At first, I didn't know who it was. I thought maybe it could be Cal Kestis. I just thought it was some Jedi who Obi-Wan had come in search of, but it turns out that it wasn't really anyone at all. It was actually Obi-Wan having a vision of Anakin Skywalker in his Jedi robes from Revenge of the Sith, and that moment really highlights how Anakin's turn to the dark side has continued to haunt Obi-Wan for all this time, and it also shows how his fear of confronting Darth Vader now that he knows he is alive is continuing to mount as time goes on. A little bit later in the episode, when the Imperial officer kills the stormtroopers and takes Obi-Wan and Leia to the town, and she's trying to help them escape, they go into this little safe house, and Obi-Wan sees the name Quinlan on the wall. Now, for those who don't know, Quinlan Vos was a Jedi during the Clone Wars, and obviously he survived Order 66. And this room has long served as a part of the quote-unquote path that Jedi have been using to escape and establish new identities for years, and Quinlan Vos has apparently been helping Jedi to do this for a very long time. So that is a big reveal, and it could potentially play a role going forward. I wouldn't be totally surprised if Quinlan Vos actually shows up in this series at some point, and I would also not be surprised if Darth Vader kills him, which brings me to Darth Vader. Now, before Vader and the Inquisitors track Obi-Wan down, Vader and Reva have a conversation where Vader essentially says, if you succeed in finding Obi-Wan Kenobi, you will be promoted to the rank of Grand Inquisitor. If you fail me, you will die. And this is something that I kind of thought there was a good chance of happening just based on last week's episodes, and even before that, because obviously we had never heard of the third sister before. I have an increasingly strong feeling that Darth Vader is going to kill Reva at some point. But once the Inquisitors and Vader do track Obi-Wan to this town that they're hiding in, Obi-Wan has this crippling fear come over him right when he senses Vader's presence. Remember, Obi-Wan doesn't even know what Vader looks like. He hasn't been anywhere near him since he left him on Mustafar. So he senses this very powerful and familiar presence, this very dark presence, and it almost brings him to his knees. He's terrified. And he's watching Vader stroll through this city, just ruthlessly killing people for no rhyme or reason, really. He's just so angry. He's filled with so much hate, and he's so determined to find Obi-Wan. He's just dragging people through the sand and choking them. He snapped a kid's neck. Vader is very, very ruthless. And I mean, really, this is the Vader that we want to see. This is what a true Sith Lord looks like. And this is who Darth Vader is. He's a terrible person. And Obi-Wan can see that. And he also recognizes that Vader is way more powerful than him. And for anyone who didn't, it is made very clear right when Vader appears to him for the first time and ignites his lightsaber, Obi-Wan runs away from him. He does not want to fight. And it's not just like in the sense that Jedi don't want to fight in general. It's that Obi-Wan knows he's going to lose. He's not going to make it out of here alive. And so he runs, but eventually, of course, Darth Vader tracks him down and they do fight for a second. It's very lopsided. Vader is in complete control. He's throwing Obi-Wan around with the Force. He Force chokes him, and then he creates this fire between the two of them and drags Obi-Wan through it. And that was probably the most gripping scene of this entire episode. Vader wants Obi-Wan to suffer the way he did. He drags him through the fire and watches him burn in the same way that he burned on the lava banks of Mustafar. Now, he also pushes Obi-Wan back out of the flames before he can just burn to death. And I think that's important to note because one of the questions that I have about this episode is, why did Vader let Obi-Wan escape? Now, I don't know for sure that Darth Vader really did let Obi-Wan go. Maybe he just really couldn't get through that fire because it was pretty big. Maybe he couldn't use the Force on that droid for whatever reason. I don't know for sure, but my interpretation was that he did let him go. And if he did, I think it's because he's just enjoying this. He's a cold-blooded killer. We clearly saw earlier in the episode he was just killing people for no reason because he gets some sort of rise out of that. It's satisfying for him. He just kills people to kill people. But with Obi-Wan, obviously, he doesn't want to just kill him right away. He wants to draw it out. He knows that Obi-Wan is now out in the open. He doesn't think he can escape for long. The chase is on, and Vader is happy to let things be drawn out now. He wants Obi-Wan to suffer as much as possible. He wants him to be terrified, and he wants his former master to feel just how powerful he has become. Remember, in Revenge of the Sith, once again, Anakin says, "You underestimate my power," and then Obi-Wan makes him pay the price. Well, now Vader feels that he has truly come of age. He is superior to Obi-Wan. So I think Vader lets Obi-Wan escape because he knows he's going to be able to find him again, and once again, he just wants him to suffer as much as humanely possible. There's quite a few shots in this encounter between Obi-Wan and Vader that sort of give me like these Michael Myers vibes. Vader's standing over the fire in one shot and you see the flames reflecting through his mask, and he's just observing. He's very patient, he's calm, he just walks the entire time. He never runs and chases after Obi-Wan, similar to what we see with Michael Myers in Halloween. It's a very intimidating thing to watch. Like, I understand why Ewan said that he literally felt some fear when he was filming these scenes with Hayden coming at him in the big suit that is Darth Vader. You can really feel that. Darth Vader's presence is terrifying, and the things he says and the way he moves and the things he does, like, he really is a horrifying figure. And again, this is who Darth Vader is. This is who he's always been. He's ruthless. He's filled with hatred and a lust for revenge, and those feelings are brought out more so by Obi-Wan than by anyone else in the galaxy. So overall, obviously, Darth Vader is the highlight of this episode. It's a very, very engaging episode. I feel that the pacing overall could have been a little bit better in the build-up to Vader and Obi-Wan's encounter, just because I feel like they touched on some things that could have been delved into a little bit more. But again, we do have 3 more episodes, so it's possible that those things could be revisited. Obviously, well, I shouldn't even say obviously, actually. We don't know if Obi-Wan and Leia are even going to see each other again, but I would think that they're going to, and if they do, then we could see the relationship between the two of them develop a little more and see Obi-Wan potentially reveal a little bit more about what he knows to Leia. Now, I'm also wondering if it's possible that Obi-Wan is potentially going to wipe Leia's mind when this is all done. She's going through a lot, and she's learning a lot and seeing a lot of things, and he may decide that it's better for her to just forget that any of this ever happened. I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of want her to remember Obi-Wan and have memories of this experience. So my lean is that I don't want that to happen, but I could see it happening and it would sort of make sense, you know? So we'll see how that plays out. One more thing that I want to mention about Leia is that the woman who helps them to escape mentions that Leia is going to be a great fighter one day, and Obi-Wan agrees. I sort of have this regret, or not necessarily a regret, but I wonder what it would have been like for Leia to have been trained as a Jedi, whether she was trained alongside Luke or separate from Luke from birth once she was 19 years old like Luke was. However that would have played out, I think this show is really forcing us to wonder and ask that question. But either way, of course, Leia did turn out to be a great fighter, and she obviously did become a Jedi later on too. So it's all good and well, but I like that they're sort of forcing us to think about that. A couple more questions that I have are obviously what is going to happen with Leia. We know that Reva captured Leia, or at least it certainly looked that way at the end of this episode. Are Leia and Vader really going to meet at some point? I certainly would have thought not coming in, but now I don't really know what to think. It could be that they are going to meet and then Obi-Wan is going to rescue her one way or another. And then the third question I have, which is something that was raised last week and we still don't have an answer to, is the Grand Inquisitor really dead? We covered in last week's episode that the Grand Inquisitor met his fate in Star Wars Rebels originally, and now we just saw him apparently be killed by Reva in episode 2. I still think he is going to come back because that's obviously a big break in continuity. The Grand Inquisitor's species actually has multiple stomachs, and he did get stabbed in the stomach, so that would sort of add to the idea that he can come back, and it would help it to make a little bit more sense. But again, overall, I really enjoyed this episode. I've loved all 3 episodes of this series so far. I'm absolutely elated with everything I've seen. I can't wait to see where this goes from here. Masterful handling of Darth Vader so far. I am loving young Leia. Obviously, Ewan as Obi-Wan Kenobi is perfect. I'm really enjoying the character of Reva and the portrayal of all the Inquisitors so far. And while we're on the subject, I just want to say that if you are one of these people who is reaching out to Moses Ingram in her DMs with racist and condescending remarks, there is no place for that kind of behavior in the Star Wars community. Really, there should be no place for that kind of thing in this world. And like Ewan McGregor said, if you are one of these people, then you are no Star Wars fan. You're a bully, the things you're saying are unacceptable, and it needs to stop. I don't care if you like the character or not, that's a completely separate topic, but you should never attack the actor or the actress. It really is unacceptable, and I don't expect that most of the people, if any of them who are watching this channel, are people who are guilty of that. But if you do happen to be one of them, stop. And if you're not one of them, then obviously you've done nothing wrong and I'm not talking to you, but maybe show your support for Moses in some way. Reach out to her, tell her that you stand with her, welcome her to the Star Wars family. However you want to handle that, that's up to you. But that is going to wrap things up for me, so thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to drop a thumbs up to support the channel. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Have a great day, afternoon, night, wherever you may be in the world. And until next time, remember, the Force will be with you, always.